In this lab, we will be learning aseptic technique. Let's start with the materials we will need. The Bunsen burner, the inoculating loop, 2 TSA agar slants, matches, 1 TSA agar plate, and a Sharpie marker. Let's have a closer look at the agar slants. When agar is warm, it is a liquid. It is poured into test tubes, which are then set at an angle for the gel to harden. This created a flat surface of gel that can be used to grow microbes. When compared to plates, slants have some advantages. The tubes can be stored in a smaller space, the tubes are typically more secure, they are less prone to contamination, and they don't dry out as fast. We typically encounter two types of slants in this lab. This type of tube has a screw-on cap. I am removing the cap as a demonstration. You should never remove the cap of a tube unless you are in the process of a transfer. Before removing the cap, the contents of the tube were considered sterile. Once the cap is removed, even for a short time, we cannot call the tube sterile anymore. Here is the other kind of test tube. This tube is longer and wider than the screw cap tube. It has a push-on cap. The push-on cap is much easier to work with during a transfer, but not as secure. Before we begin work, everything must be correctly labeled. This prevents mix-ups later. Labels include your name abbreviation, the date including the 4 digits of the year, the media type, and a description. In this case, choose one of your tubes and label it sterile. The labels need to be neat and readable. They should be at the top of the tube starting below the cap. One important aspect to labels is that they do not extend down the tube to block your view of the tube contents. Repeat the labeling process for the other tube, except the description for the second tube is culture. The plate needs to be labeled also. Mark 3 points, then add the required labels. We will use the description of sterile for the plate. Here is the setup before the aseptic transfers begin. Since I am right-handed, I will be holding the inoculating loop in my right hand. I will be manipulating the tubes with my left hand, so I have my tubes in the tube holder on the left. I have my culture tube and my sterile tube separated in a way that makes sense to me. This will help me keep track of the tubes during the procedure. Once the procedure starts, it should be as fluid as possible. I have the Bunsen burner towards the back of the bench with space around it. The burner is flat and steady on the base and the collar is closed, ready for lighting. The aseptic transfer procedure will be demonstrated in part 2.